So, hey everyone, welcome to a very special Spodcast. It had to be done. WandaVision, it's been the talking point for the past 8 weeks now, and it had to have its own special podcast. So, I'm going to do a very quick introduction of my guests because we just want to get in and start talking. So, first off, we have Bethany returning once again, our little Scarlett Witch cosplayer that we had a few weeks ago. Hey, Bethany, how's it doing?
Hi, I'm doing well.
Awesome, we've got her back. John's back once again, a little partner in crime on the podcast. Hey, John.
Hey.
And we have a new guest who is very opinionated on social media. But yeah, we have Beth. Hey, Beth.
Do me dirty is my introduction.
Is it right? Yeah. If for those listening on the podcast, she did the little hand kind of sort of symbol. Right, now that's introductions. I want to get straight into it. It's been a few hours since I've watched the WandaVision finale. I don't know if some people watched it first thing at 8 o'clock this morning in the UK, but I don't know my opinion yet. I am in the good episode, but not a good episode kind of mindset at the minute. So I'll come back to myself, but I'm going to jump straight in with Bethany, who is a huge WandaVision fan, huge Wanda fan, and now officially in the MCU Scarlett Witch. What were your thoughts on the finale, Bethany?
As for me, I really liked it, and I'm a bit like you, I'm a bit on the fence because of, I think with processing it, there is some things that didn't quite add up. I think just the overall, presentation of, the whole series as a whole, it has been finished up, and I think it's finished perfectly for Doctor Strange.
Now, what do you think of this whole building up the hype? So this is my problem. Seeing you on the fence like me, I'm just going to say it now. I think it was a brilliant episode, good story, but I think we have been we've built up the hype and the expectation of cameos and engineers being Fantastic Four links and secret baddies behind Agatha, so she's not the big bad. And there's just been so many theories. It's kind of built up this huge hype, and then I feel like the episode lets down a little bit compared to the twists and the reveals that we got at the start of the season. Is that your kind of feelings on why you didn't enjoy it?
I think it is definitely the amount of theories that were floating around and that ended up coming out. It did feel a little bit flat. It didn't really tie in with any of the theories. There was a lot of really, really good theories out there which just didn't really tie in. I think the only one theory, which was the one that me and my friend came up with, was the only one that made any sense. And yeah, definitely, I think it's been the hype of the audience, and I think as well teasers that we've been getting from the cast as well. Because of Paul Bettany and the surprise actor, which ended up being himself. I was like, okay.
Marvel must have been sat there, and the director, I don't know if anyone saw the interview, but the director said, I'll leave it to Paul to discuss what he said. The director did not want to do anything with that quote. Now, I know, John, you are kind of leaning on the fence towards you didn't enjoy the finale. What is kind of making you not enjoy it? Is it linked to the whole hype, or is it just not being one you've enjoyed?
I think the best comparison is what Geralt of Rivia says in the series, Witcher series, which was it was like a pie with no filling.
No, sorry, no.
It was a pie with no filling. It was hyped up to be this great finale that will link to so much and have so much. I don't even know. I find it lackluster. It just, for me personally, there's so many unanswered questions, so many missed opportunities. I feel, and I feel like they missed a real angle with such important characters as Agatha. I do feel like they could have played her off to be the villain and then her not being the villain. But she just felt like a Saturday morning cartoon villain in the end of it, honestly. And the CGI was,
I picked
not
up
even gonna
on
go there.
one really bad CGI moment. I don't know if anyone else picked up on this. Right at the very start, when
Yep.
Agatha sent Wanda flying,
Yep,
and
that's
the
the one.
CGI Wanda that defied gravity as she bounced
Yep.
on the pavement.
I
I don't know. Beth,
co-
which side of the fence are you on here?
I loved it. I only have like a couple of issues, but the thing is, the issues that I have are more. It's the same. I think it's the exact same thing as there was with like Game of Thrones, right? Everyone, it was the fans hyping it up and coming up with theories and thinking it was going to be all this big thing. And the fact of the matter is, doesn't matter how good it is, the fans are never going to be 100% happy with it because you've been building it up, because you've had all these theories, and it's not possible for every single one of your theories to be right. You're always going to be disappointed, And I think I really enjoyed it. I thought it set up nicely what's going to happen with the future in terms of the magic and everything of Wanda. And I thought it sort of tied up her story with her grief over Vision and the events of Infinity War and Endgame. I thought it was really good. And what you said about, or about Agatha and stuff, I like that it's kind of open-ended. Like, she hasn't been, fully defeated. She's still there. It's available. They didn't kill her off because they keep killing off awesome villains. So I'm glad they've kind of learned that lesson. So yeah, no, I really enjoyed it.
So, obviously, I think we're all in agreement of it's been fan hype that is kind of built the theories and have this guest star on, have this guest star on. And for me, I think we need to remember this is a TV show. The budget for WandaVision will be significantly smaller to what we would have got on the Avengers. We weren't going to get the likes of Chris Evans making an appearance, and I don't think he'll make an appearance in the Winter Soldier TV show because it costs millions of dollars just to get them to appear. It was never going to happen that way. But what do you guys think were some of the best parts? Forgetting the whole hype side, what were some of the most enjoyable parts of the finale for you guys? Does anyone want to jump in with that? What's one of the favourite parts?
To counteract my sort of negative, I would say they got the costume right. I think the biggest positive was the costume. They got the tiara right, the outfit, the chest piece looked very familiar. It looked like Black Widow's, but like if that's the inspiration to it, that'd be fantastic. I think the costumes were on point, especially White Vision. I enjoyed the aesthetics of him. Probably the positive I would say was the Vision that we have been teased with is not the Vision of old, and it's not a Ultron style Vision. It's something completely different and unbeknownst to us, which was quite positive. But yeah.
I found it a bit
Yeah,
weird
I agree.
that Vision.
I need that outfit.
Oh, I'm already planning it.
Yeah, honestly, I'm stuck now because I've spent the past week shopping for, well, not shop, but like getting materials planned on the shopping list, everything for Agatha for that costume, and then I've seen this new one. I'm like, I need it. I need both.
I've managed to find the boots for WandaVision, like Wanda myself from WandaVision, which I think I'll look great in. I just want the hoodie and the cape. I think I'll look great. So at least we've got 3 of us cosplaying it next time at Comic-Con, so that'll go down
Yeah.
well. But Bethany, we were talking off recording just before we start recording, and obviously you're saying it's very pricey to get this sort of outfit. Do you think that they've held off on this costume on purpose for the big reveal in the final episode, ready for Doctor Strange?
Definitely yes, because I actually spoke to one of my friends who I'm going to be getting commissioned of, and we think it's practically the same material of Captain Marvel. So I'm wondering if they've actually sourced it from that. But it is going to be quite a difficult costume to build. So I'm looking forward to like jumping in and getting it started. But yeah, I can see why they've left it to last minute, because I think it needed to be. If there was any leaks or anything, I think it would have absolutely ruined the whole.
But it was revealed. It was on the poster.
Yeah, they
for
revealed it
WandaVision.
on the poster, which is
but it
hilarious.
Yeah.
But like I'm saying, it was
Yeah, like the whole
hinting at
thing.
that there it was, but not the full costume. So
Yeah.
I think it was nice that there was no leaks from the Marvel side. Obviously, they released the official poster with her like part of, but there was no like behind the scenes photographs that made it out, because if that happened, I think I would have been devastated. I was waiting for this moment to actually see that appearance of that costume, and that appearance of that costume was just absolutely spot on.
And I think everyone
Me
agrees that hoodie version is the best version. I think everyone just wants hoodie
I
Scarlet
like the
Witch
crown
now.
though.
Go on,
To be
John.
fair, I'm considering a cosplay in that. I want to be the guy that goes, "I'm only the messenger."
Yes.
I think the van might be the most expensive part of that cosplay, I've got to say. But if you get invested, you know what? I want to see you with a cardboard van and you just kind of chugging
Yep.
along. But I'd love to see someone do a white vision as well. I think aesthetically wise, looks wise, of the outfits for Agatha and for Wanda and for White Vision, I think they've nailed it. I think it really, and I love the fact in previous episodes as well, they had the kind of Halloween episode and the kind of comic book nods, and then they've kind of showed the more up to date, current time sort of looks of what you would expect of that as well. And next question I want to ask you guys as well. What was the one scene that you enjoyed the most in this finale? So if you had to tell anyone about this finale, what would be the scene you would talk about the most, including after credit scenes, even though they're kind of meh?
I would say
I
the
would. I
family
mean, I would.
scene,
Yeah, okay.
Go on, Bethany.
family scene towards the end, because there was just a nice little line in which they said about family, and if it was to sum it up about the series, that's what I would say was that little cute scene of Wanda making her own peace with her grief. That's one way I would sum it up.
What were you, Beth? What were you going to say there?
I mean, obviously, like apart from the costume scene, because that's like up there as a favorite. I would say with Monica, because I'm so interested in how they're gonna develop her as a character and her powers and stuff, because she's like a big deal in the comics and stuff. So I'm interested to see how they go with that, and sort of they're very slowly sort of revealing her powers. I'm presuming to set up, and they're going to go through all of that in Captain Marvel too. But yeah, so the scene with her when she saves the kids, I think, yeah.
And we'll definitely come back to that because that's on one of my talking points as well. John, what about you? What scene was the one that stood out the most to you?
I really like the two visions talking in the library. I like the discussion about them almost teasing as if they gave the idea that they were going to merge.
Well, that was
when
my
they were talking
theory that
about-
I've mentioned in previous podcasts that they were going to merge.
Yeah.
But I kind of like the way they've twisted that and he just opened his memories. But yeah, sorry, go on.
Yep. No, I'm the same. I agreed. The sort of, it would have made sense in a lot of ways that like the Soul Stone essence would have entered him, and I was hoping we were going to get like a center diamond like the original design, and they would have changed the design of the White Vision to maybe more comic, but not actually be the same vision as we saw in Infinity War, and obviously the one we've had now previously. But I like the tease about like the talk about the vessel and how they remove like one piece of wood and whether or not replacing with another would it still be the same vessel. It did remind me of the Only Fools and Horses about like 6 broom handles and 5 brushes.
Had the same brush for 20
analogy.
years, yeah.
But yeah, I enjoyed that scene.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of how it ended. I really enjoyed the whole family scene, very similar to Bethany, and how like family's forever and thank you for choosing me as your mother. And I just thought that was the show. It was about Wanda and Vision. It's like it came up with a title for it, but just kind of showing their connection. And I had a sobbing teenager next to me during these scenes, which just kind of shows you the impact that this relationship they've had, and they're talking about how they'll see each other again. And I just thought I kind of felt like that was the whole heart of the show. And I think Elizabeth Olsen, and we'll move on to talking about characters now, has been the heart of this show. She has been the stand-out performer from episode 1. I know Paul Bettany is number 1 on the credits, but this was the Elizabeth Olsen show. Beth, what do you think of that? Was it the Elizabeth Olsen show?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, I think I've loved Scarlet Witch, Wanda throughout the other films that we've had, but she has always felt kind of one-dimensional, I feel, because we don't really see much of her. You know, she doesn't have an origin movie like most of the main characters do, and she's this big, powerful character that we don't really know too much about. You know, it just kind of felt a bit one-dimensional. So getting this the past 8 weeks to sort of delve into her as a character and her grief and understand, you know, really see, you know, how she developed and what's happened with her and how she's feeling now, and the sort of you know, aftermath of everything that we've seen in the past few years. I think it was excellent. Yeah, I want more of these characters, because you know, the past 10 years it has kind of felt like it's been the same characters over and over and over that we've delved into, and it's only quite recently that we've really had newer people.
And I think you're right in saying that we're getting new characters, but we're kind of getting the kind of B squad coming forward to then allow the next kind of Avengers to come into play. What about you, John? What have you been thinking about Wanda and Elizabeth Olsen during this entire season?
I agree with the fact that it's nice to have had Scarlet Witch given a backstory and some sort of central story there, because again, we're only, you know, we get a lot of the grandiose heroes such as Thor and Captain America and Iron Man. They've all had like backstories explained, but here we're talking about one of the most, if not the powerful character in Marvel, and we don't really fully know her. So to get that character background of Sokovia, and I love that, like I called it in the first podcast, that like, you know, the Bewitched and things like these TV series and sitcoms, that they originated from sort of form of childhood that you watched, and when in Sokovia, like reruns, and that was in there, and it was nice to see that logic was taken forward, and there was this sense of the way her grief was manifesting as well, and it was all part of her power. I love that, and I'm glad they confirmed that she's a witch as opposed to sort of a manifestation from the stone itself.
Well, they're not allowed to say mutant, are they?
Well, that's true.
So...
The can now. They do own
Yep.
the rights.
Mm.
And technically, she has a mutation that has been developed by the Mind Stone. But Bethany, what have you thought about Elizabeth Olsen's portrayal of Wanda in this series?
I definitely think Elizabeth Olsen's always had an understanding of Scarlet Witch, like what John and Beth's just gone and said. She's always been pushed back in the background, especially even in Age of Ultron. I mean, that was supposed to be her starting point, and we didn't really have much of a progression with her, like right through those movies as well. I mean, I think we only just start to see the tip of her powers really in Endgame and Infinity War. So to have this series and to see the psychology behind the reason as to why she, like, obviously she's experiencing this grief, and like as to where how it's manifested, her powers manifested at this point, and then to have Agatha and obviously certain aspects to be cast like a catalyst. It's like, as somebody who studied health and social care, seeing that being explored, and for her to then step out and away from the grief, to accept the grief, it's quite refreshing to actually see that, especially in a Marvel film, because sometimes film companies are afraid to kind of show mental health in some ways, because like grief can be a form of mental health, and especially with Wanda. And I think Elizabeth Olsen's definitely brought that presence forward with her performance.
It's for me, I'd be disappointed if she's not nominated for some sort of award for just the comedic side, the serious side. But one thing I did love about her performance was the kind of stages of grief. You've kind of got the denial, obviously when she first, in the first few episodes, she was denying what was happening. Then she kind of had the anger side of it as well with Monica, and just the pure physical grief of it all, which was causing it to expand. But then the show kind of ended with the acceptance, where she knew she had to fix the mistake she's made, but at least she got to kind of say goodbye to Vision and her kids of 3 days, or however long it's been for her. But it's just kind of shown, and you can kind of see it, how she's went through those stages. Because if you think, Vision's death may have only happened a few weeks beforehand when this has all happened, and what's happened in Westview may not even be a week long. And seeing how she's dealt with that, yeah. But it has been very interesting to see how she'll move forward, and obviously with Vision, and let's talk about Vision. And obviously, White Vision is now out there. He has the memories of the original Vision, but I found it very weird that he wouldn't stay around to help the woman he technically loves. John, I don't know, what were your thoughts on Paul Bettany and Vision for the season?
I've always been a big fan of Vision. I've liked him in the comics, various animations that brought him out in, and especially in the MCU, he's been one of the standout, probably overshadowed characters to a degree. In this series, I liked how they brought a more human side to him. Obviously, with Paul Bettany, I think he did a great job there, while also flicking back to sort of a more logical and calculated Vision as well at times. But in terms of the White Vision theory, I feel like, when you're brought back alive, or the idea of being brought out of a coma, and so much has happened in that short period of time, so much to even comprehend, even for an AI as advanced as he is, I still think you'll have that human side that it's a bit too much. And it's just like, not running away because it's cowardice, running away because it's so much to handle. Like seeing your death twice within a split second, because obviously you had the stone removed, and then obviously had Scarlet Witch explode him. I imagine it's enough for anybody to deal with, and we all know that Vision's a complex and deep character. That I feel like that's the reason why I left. It doesn't. The only thing I had a bit of question was, why didn't Wanda's Vision that she created tell Wanda about this other Vision? White Vision is out there, and find me or find him. That was the only question I had on the Vision matter, but I think Paul Bettany's done a fantastic job with it.
What about you,
she
Beth?
can mind read, so she probably knew what was going on in the town, so she might not have needed him to.
But was she?
So-
I don't think she actually. Her powers were so kind of all of out there in a sense. She wasn't realizing the grief that, like, even the people said, we were living your nightmares. She was putting her grief onto them, and it's only at the end when she is revealed in the Scarlet Witch outfit does she actually gain control of her powers. Like the acceptance of the grief and what she has to do is only when she fully gets control. And I think all the way through up to that point, she thought she's been in control and she's managing the world around her, but it just hasn't worked that way. What do you think about Paul Bettany and Vision this season, Beth?
I think, going off what John said about, with the two of them comparing, and he's got the memories and stuff now. I think it's kind of, for me, when watching it, and after I think about it, I think what's happened here is kind of comparable to what happened with Gamora in Endgame, where, she's been told by Nebula, this gun, she was given everything, but she doesn't have that emotional attachment to Peter, right? And, this Vision, this new Vision that we've got, that's essentially is the old Vision, he's got those memories, but he doesn't have that emotional attachment because he didn't experience it himself. So I think we are going to see with him, those feelings growing maybe, and him going through his memories. And I think possibly, that will cause some strife, what with Wanda now being the Scarlet Witch, and we'll see, are they going to go a villain arc with her, that sort of thing. So yeah, I thought it was really comparable to what's happened with Gamora.
What about you, Bethany? What are your thoughts on Vision's arc and Paul Bettany and his performance?
I definitely think the Vision arc's been an interesting one. I mean, Paul Bettany's performance of Vision has been amazing right up until this point, and especially to have to play both the original Vision and the new Vision. That is, in itself, as an actor, to have basically the same character.
And I thought Paul Bettany was dead on saying they had fireworks and great chemistry. Like, I felt the chemistry between himself and himself.
But it was like, obviously he was playing essentially two different versions of his character, which as an actor it is quite a skill to have. But as Beth's gone and said about the new Vision, I think he's going to be battling, especially with these new memories, because obviously he still is machine. So I think he's going to take a long time for him to process these memories that he has, that obviously he's now got of Wanda and the relationship. So I think with him going away and allowing himself to process this, I think we will see him later on. And I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes from here.
See, for me, it's no offense to Paul Bettany and Vision, but I think that he was the weakest character of the whole season. I don't think they developed the character as much as what they could have. I always felt like Vision was there as a kind of add-on to what Wanda was going through and things like that, and I don't think he had his own particular story arc. I feel like they could have developed it more about him working out what was going on around him and getting more of his thoughts and feelings on what was going on. And the main focus, and rightly so, I think was the right move, having the focus on Wanda. But I think Vision was just kind of the add-on to what Wanda was going through. Do you agree? Disagree with that?
He was more of a subconscious type of character, really. So he was basically a support actor and support character, because obviously we had him kind of asking Wanda what was going on, and she did have moments of kind of like snapping out of what she'd caused. So I think that was the presence of Vision being there. Like, he was the comfort, but he was also like her support through this whole process. And obviously with him leaving, he's kind of, he feels like he's done his job. That's basically what he's been. He's been her subconscious all the way through to help her out of this grief and this power that she's manifested.
What about you guys? What do you think?
I agree. I think well, what Bethany said there. I think he's fulfilled the role he was meant to in this series. I think if we gave too much character development to Vision, we'd have took the emphasis off of the weight of the grief that Wanda was going through. From the very first episode, it was to myself very apparent that this was a manifestation of her grief. So you're not going to develop or give a character development to a character that doesn't technically exist in this world. It's a manifestation of herself. So I think him being sidelined as a weak character is actually the constructs of what the story's meant to be, and I think it works perfectly with the dynamic.
Yeah, I agree, because that's what I was going to say the same. Like, Vision, that wasn't Vision who we've had, in the show, because he wasn't real. He was a simulation, and so you couldn't really have much character development because he didn't really have these, thoughts. He was entirely controlled by Wanda's powers. He's not real. It was just based on the last memory, really, that we had of him, right? So, yeah, I think. I think it was great because we did have that sort of, there was a bit of development, like in the episode with the circus with Darcy, when he sort of came to this realization. She explained to him like what had happened and everything, and I think he did have that, kind of realize when he realized what was going on. And yeah, and then obviously we had the amazing scene, well, I thought it was amazing, in this finale with him having a discussion with the other Vision and discussing, what makes you human, right? And that's kind of, I think, the whole thing with Vision's arc, because he is a machine. And with Hayward, deconstructing him, and he's like, well, he's not your, he's not your partner. He's our property, that sort of thing. And it's all about that discussion of what makes you human, which I think is an important thing within the MCU as a whole, but especially with Vision. And that's what that conversation he had with White Vision is about,
Yeah, and I feel like Paul Bettany was kind of overshadowed by two people, one of them being Elizabeth Olsen, and the other one being Catherine Hahn as Agatha / Agnes. And I think a lot of people are quite happy to say that a lot of the scenes she was in, she stole the scene. Maybe not as much as when she was full-on Agatha Witch, but as the kind of nosy neighbour, as it were, in the comedic scenes, she was just hot on the thing every time. Go on, John.
I would say one of the scenes that was most captivating about Paul Bettany, that captured both emotion and logic of a android, was the flashback that Wanda has in the Avengers compound, where he reassures that grief is actually an extension of love, and to be an AI, to have that sort of human side but in a logical system, I thought was I think that was a very deep, for such a short scene, it had so much emotional deep impact.
I think Paul Bettany, when he had the script there, when he had the moments, he did it. Like I say, that scene was a brilliant scene. It's a memorable scene that people are still talking about a week on. And when he had those scenes, Paul Bettany was on the ball, but I feel like it was the Wanda Agatha show by the end. Even the final episode, I feel like there's more Wanda Agatha than there was Wanda WandaVision. Bethany, what were your thoughts on Agatha, the reveal, and Catherine Hahn's performance in the season?
I absolutely love Agatha. I thought, I think I obviously loved a character right the way through, and I agree with you. She was amazing in the the episodes, like the first beginning of the episodes, but she was sneaking about anyway, so she was there listening in on Wanda, so she was constantly walking in, or she was there when like Vision and Wanda was having a moment, so she was always there. And I think we all knew that there was something up with her, but the reveal with her and to be honest, I actually think her performance in the last two episodes as Agatha the Witch have been way more powerful than what the rest have. I mean, especially with last week and taking Wanda through a past to find out is the reason of who she is. She actually gave me chills, and I would not be surprised if she got put up for an award for like that performance last week, because there was some memorable bits of her acting through that, especially in the auditorium scene. It was you felt uncomfortable with her presence being there, and you weren't sure as to the reason why she was there. And obviously, when it was revealed at the end, you kind of went, "This is not good." So
and help build into kind of like the finale. And it's tough to kind of develop a character that you've seen as being kind of good to just being pure evil at the end. And just that one line that I think sealed her as one of the greatest baddies in the MCU was killing Sparky. And that was like worse than a Thanos snap. But Beth, what were your thoughts on Agatha and Catherine Hahn?
Well, I was going to say, like, what you've just said there, the worst bit. Hayward shot kids.
But he
Hayward
missed.
literally
He
tried
missed,
to shoot
so therefore
these
it
two
doesn't
kids.
count.
But he didn't know that.
All at the same time.
Yeah, but no, I really loved Agatha. I thought she was great. If that's the last we see of her, I'll be quite disappointed, not just because I love her, but also because there is, her whole arc in the story is very important with in the comics is very important with Scarlet Witch, and I hope, we see more of that with like the training and stuff that they do in the comics, and I hope we see that because they have set up with, oh, I know where to find you, that sort of thing. But yeah, I thought she was excellent. I'm always, to see female villains is always great, and more, because there's not that many, and it's very, I think she was a very different sort of villain than we've had before, right? Because the only sort of similar villain I'd say so far has been Scarlet Witch when she was in Age of Ultron, but then obviously by the end she turned around, and what's his face in Doctor Strange, Mads Mikkelsen. I can't remember his name.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like the sort, and we haven't really
Glitter
seen
Eyes,
much
I think
of
his
that
real
sort of
name is.
cosmic villain. It's mostly been, a big sort of monstery villain, or it's always been the same sort of fight villain, but it hasn't really been any sort of magic cosmic stuff, right? And it'd be interesting with Agatha and the way that her powers sort of manifested and how she would leech other people's and steal theirs. I'd be interested to see what would happen if she was up against like one of the other Avengers, right? Because can she just take sort of magic cosmic power, that sort of sorcery power like that, or can she take other sorts of power, like Thor and the Hulk, and also like if they went up against her and used their powers against her, what would that do there?
I'd love to see Agatha Smash just going around like, oh, Agatha Smash. That could definitely be just season 2 right there. What about you, John?
Yeah.
Your thoughts?
I think toward the end of so the one thing that stood out for me was at the end of the episode, you saw obviously Wanda took over her mind, but sort of that smile, but in her eyes she looked like she was in pure pain. For the actress to convey that level of emotion there, I think is probably one of the most intense scenes I've ever seen. Because if you look at it very closely, you can just see like the actress she's smiling like because she's got to go along with this role, but like her eyes are just filled with pain. I thought that was incredible. as opposed for Agatha going forward, I hope, like Beth said, I hope they take the comic route and she becomes a mentor to Wanda, because she's a very chaotic, neutral character within the comics. So that's why I was also very surprised that like she was the villain. Because halfway through the episode of this finale, she seemed to almost like try and teach Wanda that no, this is your mess. This is your responsibility. You need to undo this. And I was like, okay, what are we getting from this? Are we getting something more comic-esque? But yeah, I feel like they will miss an opportunity if they don't come back to it at some point for Scarlet Witch.
I feel like that it was going to be a point I brought up at the end, but actually I think this is a kind of nice segue to it, and we'll come back to the characters. But a lot of people are saying they'd love to see a season 2 of WandaVision, and they haven't said there's going to be, but I feel like there's enough kind of characters and still story to tell where WandaVision season 2 might not be in the same style of its TV episodes, but the whole Wanda maybe after Doctor Strange realizing she's not in control of her powers as much as she thinks, and Agatha teaches her. You've got Vision who's missing, and you've got Wu and Darcy solving crimes, which I think would be a really cool kind of segue. But I think Monica will go off into the Captain Marvel and possibly have her own thing. But I think with Wu, Darcy, Vision, Wanda, and Agatha, I still think there's potential for a season of WandaVision moving forward. Thoughts?
I don't want one. I don't want
Neither.
season 2. I think it perfectly is set up these storylines to be explored in the films that are coming in future.
Yep.
You know, and I feel like that's what the TV show is, right? It's because this story that they're trying to tell with WandaVision and the story that they're going to be telling with the other series, there isn't enough material there, and it's not sort of big epic enough for it to be a film, right? You know, on the scale of the Marvel films that they have so far. So I think it's nice having these sort of little stories here, and then that then opens up all of these avenues that for the films, and I think that's what it's done nicely. And I think having a season 2 would just sort of bring it back, right? Because the idea with MCU, it's always much going forwards. What are we doing going forwards? What's this leading into? What big story is it bringing up now? And I think if you go back to say, oh, right, and we're going to do another season 2 of WandaVision, you've kind of got to pull all those characters back again and sort of tame the story back down again. And I think that wouldn't help.
Anyone else want to chip in on that?
I think Beth's right. I think for me personally, I'd want a movie of Scarlet Witch that goes forward. But like these characters like Wu and Darcy, I think having Marvel shorts, like comedic shorts that they had with Coulson years ago before Agents of Shield came out, have those, but have them like a serial. I mean, this WandaVision, from my understanding and my sort of comparison, was like years ago there was like Cartoon Network had these Clone Wars shorts that was between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, and they weren't as consequential to the movies, but they filled in a lot of the gaps. And I think that's what WandaVision essentially is, and what all these Marvel shorts are probably, these series are like gap fillers between the movies to give you something different that keeps you engaged, but also builds up the excitement and flavor for the movies to come out going forward, because they're not reliant on, for example, there's big missing holes like such as Captain America and Iron Man. Those sort of like the two biggest characters that have left now. They have to create value for these. And I think I think it's done it with WandaVision, you know, taking away, for example, the finale. Obviously, I'm mixed on that one, but the throughout the whole series, it's explained so much, and I think you couldn't do that in a film. I think going now, it needs to be big epic like Captain Marvel and Black Widow.
Now, do you think
It's just
the Monica
marketing,
reveal-
right? It's an 8-week-long marketing campaign
Oh,
for the
yeah.
films.
It worked. We signed
Massively.
up.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
do you think
exactly.
the Monica build-up and reveal, I'll go to you for this, Bethany, was the right direction of introducing her in the TV show, so that way when Captain Marvel 2 comes out, we are straight into this character? Or do you think it should have been just left for Captain Marvel 2? Bethany, your thoughts? What? And obviously the whole Monica story arc.
I think Monica's story arc was just perfect, to be honest. I just liked how obviously she found out her mother died after her being taken away during the snap, and then her obviously finding out what's going on with Wanda. She got took in, actually seen and experienced Wanda's grief, and then like this scene of where she walks through the hex and her walking through, and the voice that brought through to her powers was actually Carol. I thought that was incredible. I actually really loved that, and to actually see her use her powers and to save Wicca in Speed, I thought
Not
that was
much
really
good,
nice.
mind. Didn't do much good, but yeah, she saved them.
I know, but like it was nice to actually see her actually fully using the powers because we already saw her seeing the powers that was surrounding her. And I just loved the mid-credit scene with the
Yes.
introducing to this.
That has to be the young girl from
spot
Captain
on.
Marvel. Like the young girl Skrull.
I
It
think
has
so.
to be.
It was. I think it's
Yeah.
got to be the little girl. It, like all of the facial, like sort of drawings on it looks like her, and if it is, I'm looking forward to seeing Monica because she's got so much potential to show.
What I loved about Monica is, though, she jumped in front of the kids. She didn't know she could do that. And it was kind of like an automatic reflex. She didn't know she would absorb the bullets. She jumped in front before she knew she could absorb them, and then she had that ability, which kind of shows that she is the next hero that Marvel needs. John, what do you think? Do you think Monica has been the right step to introduce this character?
She's sort of like been the quite surprising character because, like, when you watch WandaVision, you expect that it's Wanda and Vision. So for Captain Rambo, sort of, I think that was her official title. Sort of like she lived up to basically being Captain Marvel, but on a small screen towards the end because she showed the same heroics, the same self-sacrifice, same morality. It was quite nice. The other thing I'm really shocked about is like no one batted an eyelid when she was shot, and she just didn't. She absorbed these bullets almost. So it was like it's a bit of a strange one. But yeah, I think. It'd be interesting to see what they do with the character and whether or not she may learn off of Captain Marvel or Nick Fury in Captain Marvel 2.
What about you, Beth? Did you like the Monica Rambeau arc? Are you disappointed we
Yeah.
didn't get some
I
sort
mean-
of Monica costume?
Not yet. I really loved the Monica storyline. I think it was an excellent way of introducing her because I mean I don't know about you guys, but I'm sick of origin stories and because they're all the same in these films, and it's like similar with how they introduced this MCU Spider-Man in Civil War, just sort of a very small introduction there before his own film. I think this was great because it kind of gets rid of that whole slug of having 60% of the movie being an origin when we come to Captain Marvel and Captain Marvel 2. And obviously there's some tension there between her and Carol, like from when they're in the hospital or whatever, or I can't remember what it was, and they mentioned her name, and there's clearly something's gone on there, which I'm sure we'll find out. But yeah, I think it will be really interesting to see how they go with Monica. I was surprised they didn't show her powers more. I suppose they're kind of trying to keep things to a bit of a surprise, but I don't know too much about Spectrum or Spectrum and Photon. She has like two different names
Yeah.
in the comics, I think.
It depends which comic, but yeah.
Yeah, and I think it'll be interesting to see where they go with that because arguably she is more powerful than Scarlet Witch and Captain Marvel, depending on sort of where she is in the comics, right? So seeing how those powers develop is going to be really interesting. But yeah, I thought they would reveal more of her powers because they kind of just, it's like 3 or 4 episodes back that she got her powers, and then they just kind of haven't done anything since, And I was a bit surprised by that. I would have liked to have seen more of her sort of discussing, with the sword guys of like what the hell's going on, but because they just didn't, they kind of just forgot. It's just like, oh yeah, this happened to me. I've got these powers, but I'm not going to talk about it at all.
I
I
feel
think they
like-
should have had a bit more exploration of that a little bit.
I think, like, as a viewer, I wanted more of a story of why she got the powers. Now, I'm assuming it's a mixture of the kind of hex wall and Wanda's powers and maybe a mutant latent ability. It seems like this has been hinting a lot of abilities that are like in your DNA already, and it just takes something to kind of trigger it. In Wanda, it was the Mind Stone, and Rambeau, it was obviously Wanda's powers. I feel as if they're hinting towards that route, ready for maybe future films. Does anyone agree, disagree with that kind of idea? Are they
So maybe
just
they're trying to bring in
hinting?
the mutants that way, by
Yeah.
bringing in more of that innate power in people. That's maybe how
And
they're
say,
trying to
well,
bring in
it's
the X-Men.
always been there. Well, look at Monica.
Yeah.
Look, one that says it's always been there. We've just never explicitly said the M word.
A bit like basically the Mind Stones are key to unlocking the human potential that has the mutant latent ability.
Maybe it's
Oh, I
the
like
mutant
that.
stone, and it just
I
got
think
the
that
wrong
would
M
be
word.
very that would be the way in because Pietro and Wanda, I almost said Monica then, sorry. Wanda were effectively, they are now considered potentially mutants that the Mind Stone didn't give them the powers. All it did was just unlock it, I think.
Wake
and I
it
think
up.
yeah, I think that'd be brilliant.
Now, I'm going to come onto a very touchy subject now. And please switch off the podcast if you are easily offended. But we need to talk about Evan Peters and Ralph.
Oh, dear.
Pardon the language. I think it's French and it's actually Bonaire. So let's talk about Ralph Bonaire. Bethany, you obviously look so excited about talking about Ralph there. So what were your thoughts on the Evan Peters, Ralph, I think it's fair to say, debacle?
Yes, it definitely was, but I thought it was a clever use because I think it was a nod to say, look, we've got the X-Men property now. I think it was just like Marvel just sort of like thrown in, going, look, we've got him. But yes, it was a bit. I wanted more of him. I wanted more of him in the interaction. I mean, it was, yes, it's a different Quicksilver. But yeah, I just don't know how to like sum it up. Really, I think it was a way of just saying, like potentially just saying like we can now do the multiverse because we've now got X-Men to play with.
That's, I think, a lot of the problems with that is everyone was hoping for the multiverse. You've got Agatha, they've talked about the Nexus. You had Evan Peters. We obviously know the next Doctor Strange, which Wanda's in, has the word multiverse in it. Everyone was waiting for this big multiverse reveal, and it turns out it's an actor called Ralph. John, what were your thoughts? Go on, Beth. Go on.
No, you go. No, I was gonna say I don't believe him. I don't believe it because it was so quick with the whole. No, it's not actually Peter. It's not X-Men. I don't believe him because that doesn't explain the powers. It doesn't explain how he had different sorts of memory. I don't believe them. I think that is Quicksilver from the X-Men, but there wasn't enough time to explain it, and that'll be in the future.
I do think it's Marvel's. I like it, but I also feel like they've missed an opportunity because I feel like it should have been a manifestation again, because that would have made more sense. But I do think it was probably one of the most amusing parts of it because it was like Marvel's like, ha, we gotcha. And it was, that's what I kind of liked about it, was because a lot of people theorizing, she's recreated her brother in a different image, or like it was what it was meant to be. It was a running gag of a sitcom. And I think that was it. I think that kind of like also cured the theories that came out of that. I found it was funny because I've also seen the memes that have come out since then as well, which have been great with like the two flashes. So I think it was great, and I think that's what Marvel wanted to do. Do I think that's the end for Pietro? Like Beth says, I think there's potential something down the line that Evan Peters might come back as actual Pietro. But I think it was a great running gag. I think it annoyed people, and I think that's what I liked about it because it was so unpredictable and such an anticlimactic finish that I think it was just amusing.
I think it was just
Ralph Boner is Mephisto.
That theory had gone around so much. Mephisto's gone around so much.
Everyone said Mephisto. They've said Nightmare. They've talked about James Spader being Ultron for White Vision, Luke Skywalker, Mark Hamill doing the voice of Nightmare, and Evan Peters is like Pietro from X-Men. It's all this big twist, but no, it's a guy with a surname of a wiener. So Marvel has just let us down, but in one way they haven't let us down, and this does need to be a series. Wu and Darcy. I absolutely adore Kat Dennings. I have not made this a secret at all. My Twitter can become a Kat Dennings fan page if it needs to get her a series. They haven't even announced, and I will mention this, as some people may know, I like Funko Pops. I want a Wu Darcy double pack. That needs to happen. I love their dynamic. I feel there's potential there. Will they get a series? Probably not. But what did you guys think of the Wu Darcy dynamic? I'll go to you, Bethany, because you haven't had much to say for a bit.
I would really love to see an X-Men type of series, which I know a lot of people have been talking about, but them going to investigate like other things that have been going on. But like the one dynamic which I absolutely loved was he got and brought her the coffee. that was one thing I was shouting for. God, she needs the coffee, and like that's their friendship in a nutshell, is coffee and watching a TV series, and just the banter that they've got with each other is just perfect.
I'd love to
Really,
see
really
them
is.
kind of come, because Woo's got that connection with Ant-Man. Do you feel like we could get Woo and Darcy in the next Ant-Man in the Wasp film? Like they just kind of do a Phil Coulson sort of job and they just keep appearing in the different films. John, would you like to see that, or would you like to have them have their own show, or would you just like them to be off the planet?
I'd like to have them like sort of shorts, Marvel shorts that like tidbit even maybe before the film starts. You go to watch the film, you get a Wu and Darcy Marvel short as a sort of like a, because obviously we've lost the greatest cameo possible, which was obviously Stan Lee. Unfortunately, I think this would fill the void. Would be a sort of a Marvel short before the film to sort of like get people into the teased and enjoying the film and relaxed already. My biggest question is, who is Clifford? I want that to be answered in a Marvel short.
Who's the
Just
engineer?
please, who is Clifford?
Clifford is the brother of the engineer, who is the director of Ralph Boner's next film. There you go. It's answered. We've done it. But go on, Beth. What do you think? Woo, Darcy, do they deserve their own series? Do you want to see them more?
I think they wouldn't. It wouldn't work as their own series.
Okay, well, thank you for that opinion, Beth. Everybody else, we're all in. No, go on.
I think this is the thing. They're such good characters and they have this good dynamic, but it's because it works so well because they are that comic relief within the main story. And when you take that and make that the main character, it doesn't really work. It's similar to, say, Pirates of the Caribbean, right? First 3 films are amazing, and it's Captain Jack is he's the comic relief. He's there alongside the main plot. He's there to help push it along from the side, add that bit of comic relief. Once Elizabeth and Will are gone and they make him the main character and they make the comic relief the main, it doesn't really work. It feels cheaper. You don't really have that emotional attachment to it to care about it as much. And yeah, I spotted that. But yeah, and I think it would be the same with them. I think it would cheapen it a bit, and they work well as that comic relief. Whether we're going to see them in the next Ant-Man or maybe in Thor: Love and Thunder, because obviously Darcy was in that, right? And so yeah, I think they would work. I'd like to see them again, and I think we will see them again, especially after how good the fan reaction to them has been. But I don't think it would work as their own series.
And I think Marvel let us down. Why didn't they have Darcy in the after credit scene? They have her crash the car and say you go into prison, and then that was it. You would have thought, rather than doing a throwaway line of, oh, she's been debriefed, just have her stood there chatting to them, just so we can see she's there, she's with Woo, and then Monica goes off. It just felt a bit weird not having her there. I know Kat Dennings has her own show, which could. God, sorry.
It would have been nice her meeting Wanda.
Yeah, maybe who knows in the future? Maybe we will. But I think that's the only bit that let me down is there wasn't enough Kat Dennings. That is my personal opinion.
I would have loved to have heard to reference Mjolnir again. Like, I love the way Kat Dennings called Mew Mew.
Meow Meow.
I love that. It's just like, I just wish she just made a reference, like, drove into the van and was like, oh, I wrecked you worse than Mew Mew. That would have been so funny.
My biggest disappointment is the fact that they didn't have her in the Two Broke Girls outfit when it was sitcom time. Like, come on! That would have been didn't even have to mention it. Just have her in the outfit. It would have been excellent.
A popcorn stand.
Yeah, exactly. Just have her in the outfit.
Definitely agree on having her in the outfit, but that's a totally different hour-long podcast.
Unrelated.
So let's move on very quickly before I get arrested. The future, we've talked about having a spin-off show, but obviously one of the main talking points is this was the introduction to, I think they're still calling it phases, phase 4, the future of MCU. We know we have Doctor Strange in the multiverse. We know we have Spider-Man, which is possibly going into the multiverse and wasn't maybe teased and as spoiled as what we thought. But what do you see the future of the MCU being now after WandaVision? Personally, I think it hasn't revealed the story as much as what I thought it would. I thought we were going to get a big reveal on multiverse, of our characters from multiverse, of our enemies, and we didn't get that. John, what were your thoughts on the MCU going forward now after WandaVision?
I think there's strength, obviously, within the Spider-Man franchise, but more so for me personally, I think Doctor Strange has been an interesting one because I've teased it for so long. I do feel like the finale, in terms of all the future films, has been like I said this previously, a bridge to nowhere. But that could be, I can't say whether that's good or bad until they execute the next stage. But yeah, I think it's going to be very much the multiverse. I mean, they had the popularity of Into the Spider-Verse, so I do feel like that's where Spider-Man, this new one, will be going. And there was a post earlier on about Spider-Man Nowhere. No, was it
No
No
Way
From
Home.
Home?
No
or
Way Home.
No Way Home. That's it. Had, asked Twitter what's the latest news on Twitter, and then it summarized like Spider-Man featuring X, Y, and Z sort of like actors there coming in Christmas, and of course, two of them being Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire. So
Well,
there's something
actually,
special coming.
I've just checked on Twitter now, and they've actually got a new guest part for a Ralph Boner, who is going to be playing a significant role in a. Sorry, I had to go there. Had to be done. But Bethany, what are your thoughts moving forward for the MCU? What would you like to see based from WandaVision and its introduction?
I think it's definitely left a lot of opportunity open, like what John's gone and said, like a bridge to nowhere. It could potentially go anywhere, but with like Spider-Man and obviously the new Doctor Strange, it definitely feels like it's going to be an arc with the multiverse. So obviously we had the last phase with the arc with the stones. Obviously that's stretched a couple of phases, but I think that's where they are going to go with it, because obviously with them now having more Marvel properties to play with, I think it's free game. I'm looking forward to seeing with where it's going to go, really, because it could go anywhere.
And obviously they've tied it in. I don't know if people realise, but the Darkhold has actually appeared in two of our Marvel shows. It's appeared in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Cloak and Dagger. Whether those universes are interconnected, or maybe the Darkhold from each universe could connect them in some way. But I thought the end scene where we actually heard the kids' voices kind of hinted towards the realities. She's created this reality, but they've actually been pulled from somewhere, maybe. Beth, what do you think is the future for the MCU after WandaVision?
Yeah, I mean, I think for the Darkhold point, I think it's been confirmed that they're retconning it because the lore of Cloak and Dagger and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. with it doesn't work with where it is in the MCU. So I think they're just doing completely just ignoring all that, which they've done a few times with a few different things. But for the future of it, I'm really excited with where it's going, because so much of the first three phases have been Earth-based, and it's been sort of based like strong powers and that sort of thing, and it's like stuff coming to Earth. And now that they've got the money, they've got the surety that they can experiment a bit, they're now moving into those more experimental and abstract storylines within the comics. We're getting so much more of the cosmic stuff and magic and all sorts of sort of bit weird and wacky stuff, which I'm super excited for. Like, we've got Shang-Chi coming out. We've got Eternals, I think, is what I'm most excited for. We don't know. They've really said nothing. They've finished filming, they've wrapped, they're in post-prod. And as far as I know, and we know nothing about it really, other than the cast and the main characters. And I think that's going to be really exciting to see what goes on there, because that's kind of a reboot film almost, with such a big cast, kind of in the way that Guardians of the Galaxy was, right? But I think with the ending of WandaVision, where it's going, I think it's Doctor Strange is where it's going to be, right? That line that Agatha said, where she said Wanda's more powerful than the Sorcerer Supreme, and it's like, whoa, okay. And then obviously we had the connection with Wanda being a Nexus character, so that leads in with the whole Doctor Strange multiverse thing, right? It's kind of all of that. And I do wonder whether there's going to be, a fight between Doctor Strange and Wanda, with power. And I mean, we saw her in the post-credit, she was doing that astral projecting thing. When Doctor Strange was like looking through time and stuff, and she's like, yeah, I've seen and she's like, maybe talking to Doctor Strange, and she's like, I've seen 14,320 universes, and in every single one you catch these hands, and like they're gonna have a bit of fight in Doctor Strange, I reckon. I feel like you can't put a line in that says you're more powerful than this person who you're going to be in the film next with, and not have that lead to some sort of battle. Like, it just, come on, Chekhov's gun.
WandaVision was always hinting, and Wanda said this a few times, that she is the bad guy. Not intentionally, she doesn't mean to. And after she's heard her kids' voices, this could be where she uses the Darkhold, which always goes right in the comics and the TV shows when you use the Darkhold. She opens up to going into other dimensions, and this is where the film kind of goes into, she doesn't mean to cause these problems, but because she's trying to find her kids, this is how the multiverse and how the madness starts seeping in. Maybe any thoughts on that? We have a few minutes left because, believe it or not, we've been going for nearly an hour now, so I do want to kind of finish on that. What do you think will happen in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness?
I think it's gonna. I don't think it's gonna be. I think it's gonna shatter and fracture if they do take advantage of it into Spider-Man. I think it's gonna be they're gonna be both the sort of like one side of the coin and the other side. I do think Multiverse Madness, from my understanding, I don't think Spider-Man's even held to feature in there. I don't know.
Spider-Man comes out first this December,
Yeah.
and they've said it directly leads into Doctor Strange, which comes out next year.
Yeah, which I feel that this is gonna be the first part of the actual, the first part of the coin sort of thing. That it's gonna lead to Doctor Strange. I do feel like that's gonna be where the fracture happens, and I hope that's the case. Be really exciting to see.
Awesome.
Yeah, because you've got, like, obviously with what they're hinting at, you've got different realities of Spider-Man meeting each other. So that's got to, like, really mess with, like, the multiverse and all of these fractures. And I'm wondering if this is where, like, obviously that end credit scene with Wanda links into that she's heard this crack, one of the cracks, and then with Spider-Man, they open more cracks, and then we then bounce over to Doctor Strange, which Doctor Strange is trying to sort out the mess, and then Loki's there along for the ride.
Timeline wise, a lot of people might not be aware of this. Now, obviously, in one of the after credit scenes, it's talking about Nick Fury being in space. At the end of Spider-Man Far From Home, it was revealed that Nick Fury was actually a Skrull. So timeline wise, it looks like Spider-Man Far From Home and WandaVision are actually happening at the same time. And obviously with the way that ended in his reveal, that could link into... So that's obviously going to happen straight away. So the next Spider-Man has to happen straight after that reveal that he's Peter Parker, basically. That kind of links those together. And I think that would be kind of how they would link into the whole Wanda does this, it kind of feeds into it. Any quick thoughts on that one before we finish off?
I think it's important to say as well that the next Spider-Man's going to contain a multiverse is just a rumor. With Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. So that originated from a well-known leaker who just today was very, very wrong about WandaVision and has deleted all their accounts. So it's just take it with a pinch of salt about Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, because from what we've seen, obviously we've just seen with Evan Peters, it might not, be happening. It could be a fake out.
I do think personally the first half of the film will be more addressing the possibility of Charlie Cox being in there defending Spider-Man. I think the multiverse will probably be the last element of the film, and I think that's going to be mostly the only ones we know confirmed is it Jamie Foxx is returning as Electro and Alfred Molina as Doc Ock, which they could be just the villain element at the end of it to create that villain element. That fractures obviously into Doctor Strange.
It's going to be definitely interesting, and I always try to keep these to about an hour, and we've actually just hit time. So thank you very much, guys. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Bethany, John, Beth. I'll put all their social media and stuff in the comments on YouTube and stuff like that if you want to go follow them or talk to them more. Thank you all for listening. If you don't know, you can subscribe and watch on YouTube, or you can find us on pretty much every audio platform online. So thank you very much, you guys. Thank you, everyone, for listening. That was another Spodcast, a WandaVision special, and we'll be back next week. Bye for now, guys.